Hello there, and as usual, I'm Aaron from Life's Staying Gamers, and welcome. So today we're going to be talking about Airsoft, and we're going to be going to a specific category, and it's a question that's asked to me quite a lot. Why do I choose to run gas blowback rifles? And the question is asked in so many times, and there's so many myths about this subject that just need to be diffused, that I thought I would jump on it and cover some of them today, give you a bit of fact and my opinion on why I run so many gas blowbacks. So we'll kick this off by entering the first three factors. Now the first is sound. Gas blowback rifles sound in most cases amazing. Now there's nothing more intimidating than a loud rifle firing at you. And secondly, it'll draw a lot of attention to your position, so this gives you a much more realistic firefight than a silenced weapon in a bush somewhere. And it is possible to silence a gas blowback if you want to, using a realistic sort of silencer. So moving on, we have recoil. Now AG platforms do offer some recoil, but it's never as hard kicking as a gas blowback. The recoil into your shoulder, throwing you off target, meaning you actually have to control the system that is put in front of you. Just a really cool factor to have a look at. And finally, we have the realism. You're going out there to play Airsoft, the guns are looking realistic, so why don't they function realistically? Hit that bolt catch, send that bolt home, eject that magazine, and actually use all the functions that that rifle would actually allow you to do in real life, adding that extra level of detail and immersion into your game. So we're going to jump in and cover the first myth around gas blowback rifles, and that is that you can't run them all year round. The FPS is too hot in the hot summer months, and in the colder winter months the performance drops that low with cooldown that is not worth running. Now this is utter rubbish. If you know what you're doing, you can run them all year round. I've run the HK416 in the coldest of winter months in the Welsh valleys, and I've run it also in the hottest months around our summer. Now in some climates it's going to get even hotter, but that's where these two factors come in. You've got your gas type, so you can use a lower powered gas to get it around in them hotter months, or you can use a higher power gas to get it through the colder months. But it doesn't just stop there. That is not the easiest way of fixing your problem. The best way is running the same gas all year round and using a nozzle that can be adjusted. Now adjusting a nozzle will allow you to allow a little bit of gas through, powering the pellet at a lower velocity, or a higher amount of gas through, powering it at a higher velocity, perfect for both winter and summer months. So that completely destroys the myth that you can't run them all year round, and to prove that, I've run them in so many weather conditions, and it's pretty much whatever I run. So the next factor I want to talk about is customization and availability of different sorts of platforms. Now looking at different sort of platforms that are available, you've got everything from AR-15 style rifles, M4s, M16s, as well as AKs, and you've got things in between like L22s, L85s, as well as SCARs. All that I've had a bit of a mess around with, and they are really interesting different platforms. And on top of that, these rifles will take both airsoft parts, external rails, lights, accessories, as well as real steel parts. So if you do have a real steel sort of firearm, you're lucky enough to live in America where you can actually get your hands on that sort of stuff, you can transition it directly from one rifle to the other to have it as a training solution. So while we're looking at customizing your rifle, let's dive into the internals. Now in my opinion, you're running a mechanical system. Now a mechanical system is a lot more easier to maintain than a complex gearbox with wiring, electronics and batteries that are required. All that you require here is a simple hammer hitting the back of a valve that's propelling that gas into an air nozzle that sprays out your pellet, and it's really simple. You can even see it working in progress. You can manually move all these parts and make sure they lubricate, so when it comes to maintenance, spray a little bit of silicone oil in there, get a bit of your gel, rub it in the gaps, make sure everything is good, and make sure you take off any dirt and debris. Now a lot of these gas blowbacks will run extremely dirty, especially my AKs. They seem to have a very high tolerance for some strange reason, but I guess since it's based so closely on the real system that they can run really dirty. I remember finding a lot of pine leaves inside the trigger and they sort of mag well, and it was still running absolutely fine after 2 or 3 days of that. Now where it does come to a little bit of a problem is the magazines. Now a lot of people have this myth that they're very unreliable, wherein realistically all you have to do is change a few O-rings or even spray a little bit of silicone oil and keep them magazines with a tiny little bit of gas in, and the seal will stay for months, and in some cases I've had magazines that have lasted years on years without having to adjust them or change O-rings in them, so they can be quite reliable. Now the final thing I want to cover is getting a gas gun, and a lot of people ask this saying I'm really interested in a variety of different platforms, what is the best one to get, Aaron? Well, I'm going to start by covering a 5-point list. Now first off, is the cost. It's going to cost a little bit more. The magazines are expensive, I'm not going to lie. So you're looking at around £400 to $600 if you're in the US, and then on top of that, that's going to cover your magazines and your adjustment sort of system all within that price range there. So you'll be able to get yourself 2 or 3 magazines, and you'll be able to get yourself an adjustment system to control the FPS better on that rifle. Now the second thing you want to make is consistency and accuracy. Now your rifle has to be consistent and accurate. It's not just a recoil feel at this point, because if you want to be able to compete with the AEGs, you need that consistency and accuracy. So you need to tune and play around with that gun until it reaches such a level. Most of the time, out the box, with a little hop-up adjustment, they're perfect. Sometimes you need to do a little bit more. Be ready to adjust, okay? Because these things are really different from an AEG. If you're coming from an AEG world, I know there's many players who've came, they've got a 30-round magazine in their hand, and more importantly, they've got all these added functions on the system as well. They've got to send the bolt home, they've got to cock the thing, little things that they can forget when on an AEG, all they're doing is inserting a magazine, and in some cases, they have training features built in, I am aware of, but most of the time you've got these very simplistic features, and there's a lot more that you can do wrong, so you really need to train. And that's what brings me on to point 4. You need to learn how to work, you need to learn how to twist, move the rifle when you're reloading, how to send the bolt home, and how to do it fast and efficiently without taking 20-30 minutes to try to do a single reload. And finally, the 5th point is make sure it's fun. Now, for me, gas blowbacks are the most fun sort of system out there. They're not as good in many aspects as an AEG. They're not as reliable. They're not as good. But that's the trade-off. You've got a recoil. You've got a simulation system in your hand. You're trying to simulate everything else. So why don't bring that extra factor to the table? Anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed this. And maybe you might even think about getting a gas rifle.